Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Tuesday, December 17th, and we've got a fair bit of things going on today in the market. The first and major headlines are Canada's inflation was 1.9% year over year coming out in November. So that was 0.1% lower than expected. There's obviously a lot going on in the Canadian government as the country really craters from an economic standpoint, and the Liberal Party is just disintegrating in front of us as we watch people exit and leave Trudeau's cabinet. We also got some numbers in on U.S. retail sales, and they beat Wall Street estimates. So that's positive news for the retail sector. If we take a look at the market section and the futures, however, everything is in the red. So the Dow's starting to come back. It was down minus 200 a little earlier this morning. It's now starting to come back, and it could turn around and become a green day. But we've had a bunch of positive days. I think it's likely heading into tomorrow's Fed announcement that we have a little bit of retraction in the market today. Just seems to be kind of a natural cause of events, but that could change. We could get the sentiment and feeling to change, and that could to move the markets there. If we flip over to the Yahoo Finance app, it's interesting because with what we're looking at the top here, if we take a look at crude is just getting pummeled, and so are the oil refining stocks. So again, we saw crude climb up into the $71 range and now back down into the 69 range. So it's just bouncing around like a bit of a bouncing ball or moving up and down like a roller coaster. We're going to find an actual landing spot for crude and figure out what the new norm is. But right now it looks like it's in between the $68 and $72 range. So a bit of a $4 spread in there to play with. So use that to kind of guide your moves in and out of the crude oil and oil refining sectors. If we move over to the VIX, this is one that I'm starting to pay more attention to. This was down at 13 less than a week ago, and it's now up above 15. So seeing this start to jump and getting past 15 now and on its way maybe to 20, this is a bit of a concern or potential concern, and one that I'm keeping my eye on. We don't want to see that volatility index get too high because it is definitely going to correlate with some risk sentiment and maybe an indication that the bull market is going to have a bit of a pullback. And the bull market is going to have a bit of a pullback, and maybe we'll see some bearish days. I'm not saying a bear market, but maybe some bearish days in a bit of a retraction. The U.S. sales numbers coming in today really haven't been a factor in our health and retail stocks. As you can see, most of them red on the screen. A pretty rough day for that sector as well as healthcare yesterday. It will be interesting to see if those numbers are positive for Nike this week. Nike reports earnings in 2 days, so we'll have those out on Thursday. And they've been hit hard this year. They've had a pretty rough year. If you look at the year to date, they were up in the 108, 110 range at the beginning of the year. They fell drastically in the July, late June timeframe, and really have just barely recovered from that fall, down in the low 70s. They're now up into the mid to high 70s. But if they have some positive earnings going into the holiday season, I think we might see a bump up here into the 85, maybe high 80s, 88 range with Nike. We've got the new CEO who's been in now since mid-October. So again, only 2 months, and certainly is not going to have had a great impact on the last quarter's earnings because he'll only have just arrived at the after those have closed out. But what we will see is if we get a good future forecast from that new CEO and we start to hear what his vision is for the turnaround of Nike. So that's where we are there. If we go down into transport, everything coming off its highs. JB Hunt, a stock that's been in the mid 180s for, I'm going to say the last 3 months, and CNR, which has been higher, both lower and consistently moving lower. So Probably a good time to be watching these and following them, but just wait for that right buying opportunity before getting into those. Then we get down into oil, and oil's getting decimated today. Utilities as well, which is weird. So Con Ed is off, and normally Con Ed is something that can go up when oil goes down, but everything appears to be going down here. So Valero had a horrific day yesterday, off $4, so about 3% or more in value, for no specific reason. I mean, they're not really bound to the price of crude, although it does have an impact if it sits at a certain range for a long period of time. But crude being at around $70 a barrel is still extremely profitable for the oil companies, and yet they're all just getting hit and pummeled within the market. So it could be a buying opportunity here if we see that change, but there could be more downward trend to come as well. So just have to watch those trends and decide whether or not you feel it's an opportune time to get in, and whether there's something that may actually change the direction of oil. And one of the biggest things there could be China coming back online from a manufacturing sector, and that economy taking off again and starting to see some positive growth, which we haven't really seen coming out of COVID. We then move down into technology, and we're seeing a bit of a shift here in semiconductors. So our all popular NVIDIA and that huge gain in market, not just market share, but valuation for the company is starting to slow down a little bit and shift to others in the sector. You've got Micron Technology, which was up big yesterday, almost 6%, past 110. I think it touched 111 and then came back and settled and closed at 108.26 there. As you can see, it's up again in the pre-market. They announce earnings tomorrow after market close. So I think what we're seeing here is a run up into earnings, because earnings are expected to be the best ever in the last 3 years for Micron. And that is fueled by the earnings we just saw from Broadcom, and Broadcom's up like 30% in the last 4 days. So it's had a huge run. You can see CrowdStrike had a great day yesterday. Palantir was off. It's off again in the pre-market, but then it came back. So it dropped initially, and then it started to come back. It was still down, but not that much, 32 cents. But it did make its way back. It looks like it's down again today. We'll have to see what it does towards the end of the day. Moving down through the sector, a lot of green on the screen pre-market. Net, Cloudflare. So these cybersecurity firms are really taking off right now, up at 114. So that's a high for it for the year, or very close, and then up at $3.15 in the pre-market. So that's a nice little 2 to 3% gain there on Cloudflare. And then as we scroll down, you've got ARM now with that legal suit and legal case taking place between it and Qualcomm. It was off $7 yesterday. So we'll see what the outcome of that is, but it'll probably be months away until we hear anything on that. Qualcomm was off yesterday as well going into that. So whenever you're engaged in a legal dispute, it never usually bodes well for the business, just slows things down. But we'll see what the outcome of that is and who the winner is in that suit as the days go by. Workday had a positive day yesterday, but it looks like it's pulling back and losing much of its gain from yesterday. Lam Research was up, another one of the semis. It's off slightly today, but it looks like it's starting to gain some traction again. Broadcom had another incredible day, up $25 yesterday. So just things that are hard to predict, as well as Tesla, up $27 yesterday. I mean, this stock, it's up another 10 in the pre-market. Looks like it's just, again, on a rocket ship trajectory, all probably based on the hopes of robotaxi and what it's going to do, but it's all based on hope. There's no reality, no finances or financials behind this to back it up at this point. It's just pure speculation. So you've got to be a little cautious around that. But if you are getting in on the hype and the FOMO, then Tesla is definitely a stock where it seems like it's always moving in the upward direction at this point in time, but that could change at any moment. You've got Meta, which was up a little into the mid 620s yesterday. Looks like it's pulling back slightly. Netflix has had a banner year, up at 921. That's a stock that I've missed the ride on this year, but will continue to pay attention to moving forward. NVIDIA, as you can see, was off. It's off again this morning. Google's been having a banner couple of weeks. We predicted when it was in the high 160s, it would get it up to 195. It surpassed 195. It's touched 200. It's now down at the 198 range. but looking to be in the green today. And then TSM was up at it started at 200, up to 204, back to 200 yesterday, settled at 202 with a $1.23 gain, and it's down in the pre-market. It looks like it's going to open around 200, but still attractively priced and likely to get a bit of a bump tomorrow after market when Micron reports, if those earnings are positive. Moving down to financials, we've got SoFi is just like our financial rocket ship of a company here. This has been three-time gainer this year. We were promoting this and suggesting it when it was at $6. It's now close to $17. I had an incredible day yesterday. Looks like it's going to be green again on the screen today based on the pre-market. And then you get into some of the big boys. I played a little bit of Goldman yesterday. Goldman dropped down to 580. I thought it was pretty attractive at that price point based upon its current range. Bought in, sold it on the way up at 583, bought it back on a dip, sold it again at 585. It went up a little higher. I missed the last bit of the return to even yesterday, but it looks like it's down again in the pre-market now. If it gets down into the 580 range, maybe 582, I think I'd look at buying into Goldman again today and waiting for it to come back if the rest of the market comes back as well, and depending on what other financials are doing. So I'd be watching the Dow and the S&P 500 indexes and see the direction they're moving. And if I start to see it turn and move upward and Goldman is off, I'd probably look at buying some Goldman and then selling it when it went up $3 to $5. So that's where we are today in the markets. Good luck with your trades today. And if you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button.